right. I think we might be live. I'm not 100% sure. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Oh, we're having some people, a lot of people are staying in for New Year's so far. 67%. It's gonna be a tight one. It's gonna be a tight one. Howdy, folks. I'm of course your New Year's host from not that's not on New Year's yet. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Hopefully you can hear us all right. Hopefully the volume is fine. If not, we can shout even louder.
Yeah, I never did get around to figuring out some kind of New Year's thing for us, but we do have a Santa hat if you want to wear it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I do have my Santa hat here. I could read this, not read it, but
You can read it.
wear a Santa hat.
We have Mothman.
Amber has a Mothman.
I don't think they're in the
Hi,
frame.
June. Welcome. That's fine. Don't. It's and loud and clear. That's great. Glad to hear it. All right. I think we should probably get started then. Why don't we do that? Go all the way back to the start here. All right. Well, folks, let's get started then. And our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Teaching My Son a Lesson After Throwing Him Out After He Said That Household Chores Are a Woman's Job? My answer is no, he's not in the wrong here, right? So let's actually dig into this one, though. Throwaway account, as my son knows my real one, and I want some advice. I'm a 34-year-old male, and I got a 16-year-old son with my ex, a 34-year-old female. We had our son way too early in life, and we lived on the same street growing up, and we knew each other from school. We fooled around sometimes, and the rest is history. Well, I'm ashamed to say, but both of our parents have been exceptionally controlling in both of our lives up until the divorce, and both my ex and me were too much of a pushover to do anything about it. When they learned that she was pregnant, they forced us to get married. They told me that they want her as a stay-at-home mom and for me to work. My ex and I, we hated each other for our stolen lives. We were never cruel to one another, and we never displayed any hatred in our house or for our son's sake, but we slept in different bedrooms and avoided each other as much as we could. Well, we split up after I caught her cheating, which finally made us both able to break off the chains of control both of our parents had over us, and we got divorced 2 years ago. Now everything is good between us, and I even consider her a friend, now that she's no longer my wife. And credit where credit is due, she, however, is a remarkable homemaker and an amazing mother. When we divorced, I had to learn it all on my own. It was the first time I had to realize how much work goes into maintaining a house, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I had to look up YouTube tutorials on how to clean and how to cook. Well, a few weeks ago, I was ironing me and my son's clothes, and I told him that I want to teach him how to do this, as I don't want him falling into the same mistakes that I did, and never learning this on my own. He said that he doesn't want to, and just said that he'll have to learn to do this at some point. Oh, and I said that he'll have to learn how to do this at some point. He then said, only failed men do stuff like this, and I won't be one of them. Well, I stopped and I looked up a bit bewildered, and I asked him to clarify. He said that it's his belief that this is a woman's job to do, and that only simps do simple household chores. I tried to keep my composure as much as I could, but I asked him if he saw me as a simp, and he just shrugged. I told him that he will now have to choose his next words very carefully, but I said that he will learn household work whether he likes it or not. He again reiterated what he said, and I said, well, if you think that this is a woman's job, it's time for you to live with a woman and pack up his bag and go to his mom's house, as I will not have any of that Andrew Tate nonsense in my house. My son lives with me during the week, as his school is only 5 minutes away, and his mom is nearly 2 hours. He refused to make his bag, so I made it for him. He started seeing the gravity of my seriousness and tried to backtrack on his words, but I wasn't having any of it. He must have called his mom in the time that I was packing, as she called me as well. She asked me what was going on, and I told her what happened. Surprisingly, she's on my side and has just asked me to drop him off at hers, and she'll help teach him a lesson. It's about 2 weeks now, and he lives with his mom, and she has been reinforcing the household chores on him. He's called me multiple times to apologize and ask me to come back. And his mom and I have agreed that he's going to stay for up to 2 weeks after the holiday and make him commute to school and do lesser household chores, and then let him come back home to me to reinforce the consequence of this belief. My friends and I spent Christmas yesterday, and it was rather hard, and it was a jerk move. Oh, the friends that I spent with yesterday said that I was rather hard on him, and that it was a jerk move to uproot his life like this, and that it was a jerk thing to do. So now I'm questioning myself. Was I in the wrong here? Edit, this exploded far beyond what I had imagined to happen, and I want to say thanks to everyone for their kind words. For people saying otherwise, I want to clarify a few things. I did not just ship my son off to teach him a lesson or teach him chores. My whole point was because he thinks that chores should be a woman's job. He should live with a woman, even though he sees me do these chores numerous times. While I may initially reacted impulsively, I was not going to just brush this aside or under the rug if my ex wasn't on board. I am more than willing to teach my son all of this stuff myself. I was fortunate that my ex was on board with this and is making him do chores. And as far as that, she told me that she's a lot harsher and tougher on him than I would have been. I do, however, agree that I should have given him chore schedule a lot sooner, and that's on me. 2, people comment on the commute from his mom's house to his school, and we do not live in the US. We live in Germany, and when I say this 2 hours, this is with public transportation. Someone even said that a 2-hour commute will result in him getting bad grades and warrants a CPS call. That honestly made me chuckle. 3, I went over to my ex and she said that me and my son have a good talk, and we'll talk about this today. We explained that having different beliefs and opinions, having his own beliefs and opinions, uh, the moment that this disrespects other people, it becomes toxic. So I think, yeah, the moment his beliefs start to affect other people like this, they become toxic. We've sat him down and we've told him that he is going to continue counseling twice a month now, instead of once every other month. And as he will be talking about this specifically. We have never once interfered with his therapy, but we will step in now, but only for this and this alone. We will not be invading his privacy for any other matter. The punishment that my ex and I are letting him go for still stands. He will stay with her until January. We love our son with every fiber of our beings, but he needs to know that some things just cannot be allowed. While he did show regret for his initial response, and it's a step in the right direction, I said that this is a deeper issue that needs to be addressed. He will be getting a fixed chore schedule soon, whether he likes it or not. No more coasting the easy life. All right, folks, what do you think? And welcome to all the people who have joined us. Heather, Tuesday, Kat, anyone else? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Uh, I think the key thing here is that OP's ex is on board. If he had just like shipped the son off and X wasn't on board, then I would think it would be a jerk move because it would feel like he was abdicating his responsibilities. But I think since they both are on board with this and have made it a team effort to teach the son that chores are important and everyone needs to do them, I applaud them.
Well, I actually do have a little bit of concern because it sounds like he made these plans to ship him off to his ex's place before even talking to her. And I think the first thing he should have really done is just engaged in a conversation and been like, hey, do you mind being on board with this with me? Instead of waiting for her to call him, you know?
Right. And so, yeah, I definitely think he should have talked to her first. I think, like, luckily things worked out where they're both on board and working as a team, and that's good. And I can understand why the son's rhetoric was hurtful to him. But, you know, kids say awful things, and it's not excusable, but as a parent, you know, you kind of have to find a way to deal with it.
Yeah. And also, welcome, Susums. So, I think that OP dealt with this as best as they could, and hopefully in the future they think a little bit more on, you know, including their ex in these plans if they are interested in including her, right? And I think that that's going to be pretty helpful. As for like doing the chores and stuff like that, I'm glad he's realized that his son should have been doing chores a lot sooner. But, I mean, he's been living with OP for 2 years, and it sounds like he's not done any chores. He's 16. He could have been doing chores since 14. Oh, and welcome, Marcia. Welcome. So, yeah. But what do the comments have to say?
So let's see. June says, not the jerk. Learning how to clean and cook is a life skill. Yay for the mom.
Yeah.
Tuesday says, I don't know the whole story, but OP sounds not the jerk so far. Mary says, good on mom. That's what I call co-parenting, not a jerk move if mom is on board.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday says, my bus in high school was 2 hours round trip. Can't call CPS on my old high school.
Well, I mean, my trip in the mornings was like an hour and a half to almost 2 hours when I was going through school. So I really don't think that this is as uncommon as some people think, right?
I mean, mine, the bus ride itself was like under 40 minutes, but I had to walk for like 35 minutes to get to my bus stop in all weather because they only had one bus stop for Bangor High at the end of VZ.
Yeah.
So that was a good time. And then Susam says, it's nice to hear about divorced couples that can do better after the divorce than before, especially if it's about the kids, and nice that the dad is teaching to respect women.
Yeah.
Marcia says, hi, my clubhouse is having a pre-New Year's party tomorrow on my birthday so I can celebrate in a good way.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Mary says, I like how both mom and dad nipped this right in the bud. And
Yeah.
Susam says, and probably OP was right to think that the kid was sorry because of the consequences more than actually about the thing he said.
Yeah. Well, and I think the important thing about someone like Andrew Tate, for instance, is Andrew Tate is a caricature, right? He is what weak men view a strong man to be like, right? So he is nothing more than basically a way of selling into Andrew Tate's personality and stuff like that. This isn't what strong men look like. So I think that it's good that he's starting to show his son what these kinds of ideas aren't healthy and they aren't productive.
They aren't healthy. Well, and like, it's so important to know basic chores because even if the son were to get married and have, a stay-at-home wife, what about if he's at college or out living in an apartment? Like, these days, a lot of times people don't immediately go from their parents' house to their marital home.
Yeah.
There's usually a period of time where they're living on their own and they've got to figure these things out.
But speaking of figuring things out, our next letter is titled, My Wife is Sad Because I Got My Sister a much more romantic Christmas gift than I got her. Am I the jerk here? Well, last night, my family hosted the gift party. We invited siblings, parents, and grandparents. The party was going great, and everyone was genuinely happy when they opened up their gifts. My wife had a Christmas list, and I got my wife all of the items on her Christmas list. My sister opened her gift last, and after looking at the gift for a moment, she broke down in tears and hugged me. For some context, when my sister's first boyfriend broke up with her back in high school, it really hurt her. I still remember how she was when she came home from school that afternoon. She was just a mess. She was also going through a lot of other issues at that time. That night, I drove her to a park near where we lived, and we just sat on the grass and looked up at the stars. It was really emotional, and my sister still talks about that night occasionally. So, for my sister's Christmas gift this year, I got her a canvas of a customized star map of what the night sky looked like that night. I also wrote a personalized note on that canvas. Everyone wanted to have a look, and they thought that it was a really sweet gift. Well, everyone except for my wife. Later that night, my wife told me how much she felt hurt that she was, my wife told me how hurt she was feeling that I chose that romantic gift for my sister and not her. I told my wife that there was nothing romantic about that gift, and besides, that gift didn't even really cost that much. My wife's Christmas gifts cost a lot, and I was happy to get my wife every item on the list. I just don't understand why my wife is feeling sad. I told my wife that if she wants a star map, then I can get her one too, of what the stars looked like in the night sky the night I proposed to her. But my wife told me that it isn't the same and to leave it. This morning, my wife still looks somewhat sad. Am I the jerk? I don't understand where I went wrong. I thought that we had the perfect Christmas. All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
I mean, I think the OP and his wife need to work on their communication.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand why the wife is upset here, but I don't think that OP did something wrong by getting his sister a thoughtful gift. Like, I want to make that clear. I don't think there's anything wrong or inappropriate about the gift, but it does seem like he views gifts as more of like a monetary thing. Like if you spend more money on the people, certain people, then like that's all that matters. Where his wife is looking at gifts as a sentimental thing, and he got his sister something that he put a lot of thought into,
Yeah.
or at least seems like he put a lot of thought into, whereas he just bought his wife things off a list that she created.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit of a challenging situation in the respect that it feels like OP got her everything that she wanted,
Yeah.
but in the context of things, like I think she was just disappointed that she didn't get such a thoughtful gift, right? So I think again, I don't think that anyone's necessarily in the wrong here.
Right. I think they just need to work on their communication.
Yeah, and certainly like if she wants something that's thoughtful, then maybe OP can think about this and think about something, some shared memory that they have. Maybe not of the stars, for instance. Like
Right.
he's painting this like, oh, it's about the stars, right? Because it's not about the stars,
No.
right? It's about that shared memory and that he built a gift around that shared memory, right?
Mhm.
So if they were going to do like some kind of thing with a proposal, right?
Mhm.
Then it would have to be like some shared memory around that proposal, not just a map of the night sky here, right?
Right, he seems to see it as like a copy paste thing, like,
Yeah.
oh well, I can get you a star map, no problem.
Yeah.
And what she really is missing is the thought
Yeah,
that went into it.
exactly.
And so, maybe he can work on, for their anniversary or for her birthday, try and think of something, an important like moment, and make her something, maybe a little scrapbook. You can have those printed too. It doesn't have to be handmade, but
Yeah, yeah.
print her a photo book of like special times together, or if he has like little mementos from like their first date, like a ticket stub or something, make something with that. Or
Yeah, but what do the comments have to say?
uh so let's see. Susam says, not every gift in your life will be super personal and romantic. While OP could get something romantic out of a list, I still don't think OP did anything wrong. June says, I agree with Amber. That's what I was thinking. Tuesday says, I want to say no jerks here, but the wife is a slight jerk to me because she's focusing on the romantic notion of the gifts instead of the connection it means. He offered to do another connection gift, but she declined. I think they need to talk about future gift ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary says, I can understand how the wife feels. Instead of relying on a list, OP reached deep into the personal side. Sometimes you just can't win for losing OP. And then Kat Nakoma says, don't think OP did anything wrong. Inspiration for thoughtful gifts is not easy.
All right, speaking of thoughtful gifts, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not putting my husband's name on the gifts that I bought on my own? Throwaway account because I don't want him to see this. I'm a 27-year-old female and have been married to my husband, a 29-year-old male, for 3 years, and we've been together since we were 18 and 19. The first 2 years that we were together, when we were still pretty young and our relationship was new, we had bought Christmas gifts separately, except in some rare cases. But when we got pretty serious, we started making gifts from both of us to other people. Since then, he has not once helped me buy the gifts at all. That includes gifts for my family, our friends, but even gifts for his family. Occasionally, he would give me some ideas as to what the one person would want, but that was still pretty rare, and the ideas that he gave me were most of the time very vague. And even when he gave me ideas, I was the one who had to buy the gifts and went Christmas shopping alone. I was fine with this at the beginning, as I really enjoyed gift giving and finding the perfect ideas for everyone. But it's been 8 years of this, and it's getting pretty exhausting. I've also evolved in my career since we got together, and now have way less free time to spend buying gifts. So last year, I asked before the holiday season if he could help this year, and we would each buy some of the presents. Out of maybe 20 people we bought gifts for, out of the maybe 20 people that we bought gifts for, he only bought one. And he told me that he would take care of it until the very last minute, but eventually forgot. So I had to buy his sister and mother a present in less than 24 hours before Christmas. After that, I told him that now I expected his help because this could not happen again, as it was mentally and physically exhausting for me. So this year, I bought half of the gifts, and he was supposed to buy the other half. He didn't. Yesterday, I spent 7 hours at the mall trying to find the rest of the gifts, and he was no help at all. I sometimes called him to ask if the person would like a gift, that if they already had it, or whether he thought, or what he thought, and he mostly said, I don't know, maybe, whatever. I also have to add that I'm 6 months pregnant, so this was extremely exhausting. When I got home, I was angry and I was tired. While wrapping all the presents, I decided that since he didn't help at all, I wouldn't put his name on the presents. Usually we write something like from Mary and John, not our real names, but I just wrote from Mary. Today, as we were packing all of the gifts in the car to go to his parents' house, he noticed that his name wasn't on it. I explained to him and I said that he didn't help, so he doesn't get credit for what I bought. He keeps saying that this is unfair and that I'm going to make him look bad, and asked that I change it. I don't know if I should. Maybe this is petty and I don't know what else to do. I've asked for his help many times and I'm just afraid that he's never going to change. Should I put his name on this? Am I mean for this? How can I make him understand how much help I need? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. I mean, I think being publicly humiliated may be just what he needs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's made it very clear that he does not care about OP's well-being. She's expressed to him repeatedly that she needs help, but she's exhausted. And he just doesn't do anything because he knows she's not going to let it slide without a gift.
Yeah, well, I think this is exactly what needed to happen. I think that OP made the right move, and maybe this will light a fire under his butt at this point in time so that he can actually help participate in gift giving. He's shown that he's not willing. He agrees, and then he backs out of his agreement and doesn't complete his end of the deal. I think that OP is more than justified with excluding him at this point in time.
Right. And like he can't even claim that he doesn't know what to do because he bought gifts for his family independently before they got together.
Yeah.
You know. And so it's time that he just sorts this out and, you know, makes the time and stops forcing Opie to do it all.
Yeah, but what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, LOL, I can just picture the gift opening. Oh, how beautiful, how thoughtful. I shouldn't have. Not the jerk. Gift tags and thank you should reflect the effort made. June says, that does sound exhausting. Not the jerk. Next year, buy everyone gift cards. Sue Sum says, I understand Opie's frustration. It is not easy to get presents, especially at least somewhat decent presents. I wonder if there's a similar situation in other things. Doesn't sound like a reliable partner.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this was unbalanced in other ways.
Kat Nakoma says, not the jerk. Maybe announce to the family next year that husband is going to buy the gifts and watch him squirm. And Tuesday says, well, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. OP is not the jerk. Now her husband can choose to learn and help next year or give OP more time to shop by taking up house chores.
Exactly.
Some give and take. And Marcia says the wife should have dragged his butt to the mall and made him gift wrap. Lazy and inconsiderate.
Speaking of lazy and considerate, our next letter is titled, Am I the jerk accidentally causing my mom to go on a rampage at my cousin's wedding? Maybe not lazy or inconsiderate.
No. The segue works perfectly, actually.
Does it? So my cousin, a 28-year-old female, was getting married, and it was a big family event. My mom, a 55-year-old female, is known for being a bit intense. She's always been pretty particular about family events and has a tendency to overact. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I was in charge of bringing the wedding cake, which was a huge deal because my cousin had specifically requested a cake from her favorite bakery. Well, on the day of the wedding, I picked up the cake and was on my way to the venue when I got a call from my mom. She was freaking out because she thought that I had forgotten to pick up the cake. This is because she needs to know my every little move, and somehow I am supposed to just let her know my every step and that I already got the cake. Anyways, I tried to reassure her that I had it, but she was already in full-blown panic mode. Well, she started yelling at me over the phone and accusing me of ruining the wedding. When I arrived at the venue, my mom was waiting for me at the entrance, looking furious. She grabbed the cake box from me and stormed inside. I followed her, trying to explain that everything was fine, but she wasn't listening. She marched up to the bride and groom, shouting about how I almost ruined their special day. In her rage, she accidentally knocked over a table, sending drinks and appetizers flying. Guests were staring, and my cousin looked mortified. My mom then opened the cake box to show everyone that I had, in fact, brought the cake. But in her haste, she dropped it. The cake hit the floor, and the room went silent. My mom started crying and blaming me for everything, saying that I should have been more careful. I felt terrible, even though I know that I hadn't done anything wrong. but I still kind of feel like it's my fault because I could have just told her my every step like she wants. If I just did that to satisfy her OCD, I would have prevented this whole situation. The rest of the wedding was pretty tense, and my cousin was understandably upset. Now my family is divided. Some think that my mom overreacted and caused unnecessary drama, while the others think that I should have handled the situation better to avoid setting her off. I'm just so sick of treating a grown woman like she's a precious baby about to go off like a bomb with one wrong move. So am I the jerk for accidentally causing my mom to go on a full-on rampage at my cousin's wedding? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. In OP, you did not cause your mom to do anything. Now, if she actually has OCD, I understand that can be very difficult to deal with, but it's still on her to deal with. And when her OCD requires a detailed minute by minute response from family members, that's not a reasonable request.
Yeah.
She needs to work with a therapist to help her learn how to cope without needing to know OP's every move, because OP is a grown adult. He's not a 10-year-old child who does need parental monitoring. He's a grown adult, can do his own things, and needs to be able to live his own life out from under his mom's thumb.
So I think that this whole family has a lot of issues, right? Because it seems like they are the kind of ship settler people.
Mm-hmm.
People, whole families will, when there's a person who rocks the boat, they'll try to balance out the ship basically and try to make sure that everything is fine and stuff like that. And it sounds
Right.
like they're complicit in the way the mom behaves. No one has stood up to her, and the reason why she's acting out like this is because no one has stood up to her.
Right. Everyone wants to just pacify her because it's easier than dealing with her outbursts. But
Yeah.
then, something like this happens and they have to deal with it anyway.
Exactly. So I don't think that OP is in the wrong here. I just think they have a very skewed vision of what a family is, and these people really need to get a grasp here, right? Because this is not healthy to enable someone to act like this. But what do the comments have to say?
June says, I think we have the same mom. Haha.
Oh no,
No,
June.
not the jerk. The mom was freaking out for nothing. Susum says, I feel so bad for OP and for the new couple. People like OP's mom need to be left out of special events. Mary says, the family is divided. Divided? Where do these families come from? Not the jerk. Tuesday says, I don't understand what set the mom off. She thought OP forgot the cake, but OP didn't. Then the mom went off, all because OP didn't say where they were at all times. OP didn't do anything wrong. Not the jerk. Marcia says, not the jerk. And Kat Nakoma says, if mom has actual OCD, then everyone's the jerk. But if not, then the mom managed to do by the ruining all by herself.
Yeah.
And Mary says, and I hope this Reddit post makes its way to mommy's desk. There's no blame here except on her overactive brain.
Speaking of being overactive, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to move in with my boyfriend after he secretly tested me? I don't know if that segue works or not, but we're going to roll with it. I'm a 28-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend Jake, a 31-year-old male, for 2 years. Things have been going great, or so I thought. Recently, we started discussing moving in together and I was pretty excited about it. We even started looking at places. Then, last week, Jake dropped a bombshell. He admitted that before committing to moving in, he wanted to test me to see if I was serious enough about our relationship. What is this test, you may ask? He pretended to lose his job and needed financial help for rent. He told me that he had been fired 2 months ago, which wasn't true. During those 2 months, I stepped up and I gave him money. I helped him on his job hunt. I cooked for him more often, and I tried to be as supportive as possible. It wasn't easy, but I thought that I was helping my partner during a tough time. Now he's telling me that this was all fake, a loyalty test, to make sure that I was the kind of partner that he could depend on long term. He even laughed and said, "You passed with flying colors." Like I should be proud of being lied to for 2 months. I was furious. I told him that I couldn't trust him anymore and that I wouldn't move in with someone who thinks that it's okay to manipulate me. He's calling me being overly sensitive and saying that he was just trying to protect himself from ending up with someone who wouldn't have his back. Some of our mutual friends are on his side, saying that he just wanted to be sure, but others think that he crossed the line. My mom even said, well, at least you know he feels secure with you. Now I'm doubting myself. Am I the jerk for refusing to move in with him after what he did? And also, does OP feel secure with him now, right? What do you think?
Not the jerk. And I mean, when your relationship gets to the point where you need to do tests, that's
Yeah.
a sign that this is not the right relationship. Either one of the partner is struggling with unresolved issues of like trust issues that they need therapy with before they can be in a committed relationship, or there's some fundamental issue with the relationship and reason why the partners can't trust each other.
Well, yeah.
And I mean, I think what Jake did was inexcusable, you know, and like you said, how can OP trust him now? How can, if he actually does lose his job, like it's like the boy who cried wolf thing, like
Mm-hmm.
how will OP be able to take him at his word? Or, you know, anytime he has some kind of big catastrophe, it could be another test. Like, what if OP were to, you know, get pregnant, and like, what kind of test is he going to pull then to make sure this kid is his, or any number of things?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the tests ending here, right? I think this is the beginning of a very long series of tests that OP will have to endure for the rest of their life. And if they don't pass one of them, then OP isn't going to be good enough for him in one way or another. And that's just, you shouldn't have to deal with that in a relationship. But what do the comments have to say?
Susum says, please no relationships. Why? Relationship tests. Why? Just why? Mary says, tests work both ways. Jake flunked. June says, I don't like relationship tests. She should break up with him. Susum says, boyfriend failed in loyalty test himself the moment he even thought about testing OP. And Tuesday says, boyfriend is the jerk, but I would have given him a pass had he given her back the money with the reveal. He's a jerk regardless, but at least that would have been slightly better.
I mean, that's actually a really good point. Like, he didn't even, like, compensate her at all for any
Mm-hmm.
of this stuff. Not for her labor, not for her time or energy, or not for her money. He just basically just took and took and took, even though he had the means to not take.
Mm-hmm.
Really poor taste. Very poor taste. Speaking of poor taste, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Making My Daughter's Friend Follow My Rules in My House?
Perfect
And
segue.
this segue works like a glove fits a hand. I am a 38-year-old female and I have 3 kids, a 14-year-old female and a 10-year-old female who we'll call Anne, and an 8-year-old male, Today, after school, Anne's friend Jo, a 10-year-old female, came over for a play date straight after school. The rule in our house, which I assumed was the rule for every house, was homework needs to be done as soon as they get home from school. Anne and my son went straight to the kitchen table and got right to it, as always. But Jo didn't want to and tried everything that she could to get around it. She said that she wanted to go play first, and that she said that she wanted to have lunch first, and she wanted to do it at home, and that her mom doesn't make her do homework while her friends are at her home and waits until they go home. Everything she said that I replied with, in this house, nothing is done until the homework is finished, and made her sit in the kitchen at the table with her books out in front of her until she did it. She said that she was going to call her mom to prove that her mom was okay with it. So I confiscated her phone, as I don't allow the primary age kids to use phones during homework time. She continued to whine and complain and pout at the table as long after Anne and my son had finished. Took them 20 to 30 minutes. My older daughter even got home from her secondary school and finished her homework while Jo just sat there without so much as picking up her pencil. I was quite surprised. She was incredibly stubborn, but it would have been unfair on all the other children if I had let her have her way, and started to get upset with her after a while, as she wanted to play but couldn't due to Jo's stubbornness. Jo asked repeatedly for her phone to call her mom to pick her up, but I just reminded her that there are no phones until homework is done. Eventually, after 4 hours, we had dinner, and Jo cried, saying that she was so hungry. I told her that it was her own fault and that she could have dinner as soon as her homework was done and completed. I even had a plate ready for her on the kitchen countertop. After dinner, I couldn't take it anymore, and so I loaded Anne and Jo into the car and brought Jo home. She had stopped in the car crying. She had stopped crying in the car as soon as we pulled up outside her house. The waterworks suddenly started up again and ready for her mother. When her mother came to the door, I gave Jo's phone and explained what had happened and demanded Jo apologize to Anne for ruining their playdate. Joe's mom was quite cross and said that I should have just let it go and had no right to confiscate her daughter's phone for any amount of time for any reason, and especially starving her child was way over the line. I said I respect that in her house rules that they may be different, but I make the rules in my house, and if my kid's friend wants to visit, they must abide by them, and if I don't like that, and if they don't like that, they will face the same consequences that my kid would. I again asked for an apology, and Joe's mom said, "I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, Anne, that your mom is so ridiculous," and then closed the door on both of us. Every other play date any of my kids have had over the years has mostly been compliant with my rules, and I've never had to go to these lengths with my kids as they are well behaved, so I'm wondering if I'm the jerk here. I was just trying to be fair and keep the rules the same for all the kids. All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
Yes, OP is a major jerk. Now, it's one thing to have a set of rules. Those should be communicated beforehand so the kids understand them. But at that point, when the kid refused to do her homework, OP should have just let her go home. Should not have confiscated her phone, and definitely should not have denied her dinner.
Yeah.
Making this poor kid suffer and not giving her any way to go home was completely inexcusable.
Well, yeah, I think the taking away the cell phone was especially egregious, given that she said that she was done with the play date.
Mm-hmm.
So OP essentially held her kidnapped.
Yeah.
Right? OP kidnapped her for 4 hours, didn't let her go home when she wanted to, and OP for some reason doesn't see this as a big deal.
Well, that's the thing, is like, yes, when your kids are at your house, like, you are in charge of them, but you're not their actual parent. You cannot make like all the parenting decisions for them. They need to be able to actually contact their parents if they're feeling unsafe.
Mm-hmm. So I think that OP was extraordinarily entitled here, and I don't care if it's worked out well before. You just don't have you're not entitled to punish a kid like this, especially not starve a child like this, right? At a certain point, you just have to say, well, if you're not going to comply with my rules, then you're going to go back home, right? That would have been the appropriate way of handling this situation, not saying, well, you're going to do these, and I'm going to continue to kidnap you forever, right? But what do the comments have to say?
Mary says, I was on the fence until OP took the phone. You're the jerk. Kat Nakoma says, okay, that phone is not your property, OP jerk. Tuesday says, I don't agree with confiscating another child's phone. Sure, the kid needs to follow the rules, but now you're in this rule changes house to house territory. June says, I would have called her mom. Mary says, what do you want to bet that OP's house won't be getting many after-school friends anytime soon?
Probably.
Susan says, he is just a tyrant and a bully. It's okay for Joe to wait till Anne to do her homework, but not all evening. Anne can lose a friend like that. Marcia says, OP was way out of line, almost abusive behavior. And June says, not calling her mom and keeping her there for that long makes her a jerk.
Speaking of, I don't know how to segue to this one. It's really different from the last one. Speaking of, insert your own segue here. Our next letter is titled, I'm a 24-year-old male and my girlfriend, a 26-year-old female, talked in her sleep about being intimate with someone, and I just can't stop doubting her. I've been struggling with trust issues in my relationships after some past incidents. Recently, my Korean girlfriend talked in her sleep about something along the lines of, let's be intimate, but in Korean, and she doesn't usually use that with me. We use English together, and she usually uses English when she dreams about me. When I brought it up, she assured me that she was dreaming of me, but I can't seem to believe it. Has anyone else experienced something so similar? Should I be worried about this, or am I overthinking due to my trust issues? All right, folks, what do you think?
OP, please get some therapy for your trust issues. First of all, like, what language someone dreams in. If someone is bilingual, they may dream in either language at random. Like, if your brain, because when I took Chinese in high school, I mean, obviously I speak English primarily, but when I get out of Chinese class, I would be thinking in Mandarin without like any effort. And so if people know two languages, then like your brain can kind of transition between them, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But secondly, like, we don't control our dreams. Even if she was intimate with someone else in her dream, it's not cheating. It's just how your brain works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that OP is reading way too into this. I think that, again, our dreams are a place where we don't necessarily have control over them. Our subconscious sometimes does weird things, and you shouldn't feel, shame about any dreams that you have. You might want to reflect on them and try to kind of, understand maybe what your subconscious is telling you. But again, like a lot of dreams are just nonsensical and they don't have any real deeper meaning to them. But what do the comments have to say on this one?
So Mary says, I've had dreams that I ran over someone in my dreams. It's a dream, OP. You're the jerk.
Yeah.
Uh, Marcia says, overthinking and we aren't responsible for our dreams. June says, I think he's overreacting. It's just a dream. Tuesday says, dreams are not real life. If his girlfriend robbed a bank in her dream, is she now a criminal? Yeah, I've had some wild dreams. Like, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I have recurrent zombie nightmares like every few months, or sometimes it's even more frequent than that if I'm stressed. That's my primary stress dream, is that like I'm in the zombie apocalypse and like running from zombies.
Yeah. Speaking of the zombie apocalypse, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to lend my coworker my car after she called me irresponsible for driving it? And this was during the zombie apocalypse, though.
Yeah.
I'm a 28-year-old male, and I work at a mid-sized office, and I have a pretty noticeable car, a bright orange 20-year-old Honda Civic that I've lovingly fixed up over the years. It's loud, it's old, but it runs great, and I take great pride in it. My coworkers often poke fun at it, calling it a go-kart or a clown car. I laugh it off because honestly, I love my car. Recently, one of my coworkers, Sarah, a 35-year-old female, has been particularly vocal about it. Last week, she made a snide comment in the break room saying something like, I can't believe you actually drive that thing. It's so irresponsible. What if it breaks down and causes an accident? I rolled my eyes and I said that my car is perfectly safe. Well, fast forward to yesterday, Sarah came to my desk, visibly stressed. Apparently her car broke down and she needed a vehicle to pick up her kids from school. She asked, could I borrow your car for an afternoon, just for a couple of hours, I promise. I was stunned and reminded her of her irresponsible comment, and she said, my car isn't safe enough for me. If my car isn't safe enough for me, I don't think it's safe enough for you or your kids. She looked embarrassed and said she didn't mean it that way, but I stuck to my no. I don't lend my car to anyone, especially after her constant judgment. She ended up scrambling for a ride from another coworker, but now she's giving me the cold shoulder and telling others that I'm petty for holding a grudge. Some of my coworkers saying that I should have just let it go and helped her out, but others think that she had it coming. Now I'm wondering, was I too harsh? Should I have just let her borrow the car despite everything? Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think of this very odd, peculiar situation?
Not the jerk. I mean, I think Opie handled the situation perfectly. If the car is that much of a concern that she doesn't think it's roadworthy, why would she want to drive it and take her child in it?
Yeah. Oh, welcome, Captain Fluffy Paws.
So it just seems like a very strange thing that of all the coworkers she could have talked to, she goes up to Opie and is like, hey, I know I said your car is basically going to cause car accidents and fall apart on everyone, but can I borrow it?
Now, what I'm hoping happened is that she went to a bunch of other coworkers first, and they all said no, and that OP was like their last resort or something like that. And that's what I'm hoping, because otherwise, she's an extraordinarily big hypocrite for going to OP at all without them being like the last resort. Yeah, if you think that a vehicle isn't safe for their own owner, then you shouldn't be asking to drive that in the first place. I really would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that office for that day to understand what exactly happened to bring her to the point where she decided that asking OP to use their car was acceptable.
Right. Well, and OP wouldn't be entitled to like required to lend it, even if she was perfectly nice and was like, your car is super cool. But just the fact that she's like, yeah, your car could break down, as if any car could, literally any car can break down on the road. You know, like, yes, there are cars that are unsafe, but it doesn't sound like OP's car is like one of those ones that has the muffler hanging on the ground and like spewing random pieces everywhere.
Yeah, and OP, all I would say is keep a list of all the people who said that OP should have just let her lend the car so that next time when she comes loses her car,
Yes.
that they can give the list of people who said that they would loan their car out to her.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But what do the comments have to say?
Mary, I can't believe you actually want to borrow that thing. The answer is no. Susum says, no matter the situation, Sarah isn't entitled to have OP's car. Captain Fluffy Paws says, karma for Sarah, plain and simple. June says, no, not the jerk. I would never lend my car to anyone. It doesn't matter how old or how it runs. Mary says, and since when is anyone required to lend out their car for any reason whatsoever?
Exactly.
And Susum says, P.S. I can lend my car to my family easy, but not to a stranger and coworker. And coworkers are basically strangers.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Like, I don't have a car, but like, if I did, I would not be letting anyone drive it except for like someone who I trust 100%.
Yeah. But speaking of doing something that's very questionable, our next letter is titled, I found my boyfriend's scorecard after 7 years. I don't even know where to start. I can't believe this is actually happening to me. I'm a 25-year-old female and I've been with my boyfriend, a 38-year-old male, for 7 years. We've had our ups and downs, but it seemed mostly normal. But for the last few months, he's been very distant and behaving weirdly. I felt something was off, so I searched his things, and I really wish I hadn't. I found this spreadsheet on his laptop where he's been keeping score of our relationship. Like he literally has points for fights, his cheating, and even his notes on how he dislikes me. He treated our whole relationship like it was a game. He only chased me because he was bored. I don't know even how to process this. I'm lost. There were times when I almost broke up with him, and he would just start crying and beg me to stay. He wrote those things down and scored them. I cut off friends for him, and he has their names in there. The last thing that he had was that he's bored again and he wants me to disappear. After 7 years of creating a life with him, he's all I've got. I've depended on him for everything. What am I even supposed to do now? My mind is all over the place. Who does something like this? All right, folks, what do you think?
OP, I would recommend reaching out to a domestic violence shelter in your area. There's some very clear manipulative behavior. He's made you cut off friends, isolated you, made you depend on him completely. It's really hard to extricate yourself from a situation like this on your own. So if there are any resources that OP can avail themselves to in their area, I would recommend reaching out to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's really important here is that OP needs to get some resources and be able to actually remove themselves from this abusive situation. This guy is clearly not on OP's side, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is treating this relationship like it's a zero-sum game, and that there's a winner and a loser in a relationship. When there isn't a winner and a loser in a relationship, you're either both winners or you're both losers.
Exactly.
Right? They're a team, and teams either win together or they lose together. There's no middle ground there, right?
Right. Well, and the part where he wants OP to disappear has me concerned too.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't say that he wants to disappear. Like, if him up and ghosting her would be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it makes me wonder if what is he willing to do to make her disappear?
Yeah. My advice for OP in this situation is to get their ducks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they have a way of getting out of that, and resources. They can start to reestablish communication with some of these people that they've cut off, and just explain the situation to them. They can explain that it's an abusive situation, and hopefully some of those friends will end up being, have mercy on them and, understand, right? And then they can print off the score sheet, leave it with a note saying that I found your score sheet, I'm not playing games with you, I'm done, and get out of that situation.
I mean, I would not necessarily do that. I would just get out of the situation, bring a copy of the score sheet so you have proof of his abuse.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's the type of person, I don't know how he reacts, but if antagonizing him might be worse, then like I might not recommend leaving that for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have viewed that as antagonistic, but I can understand why you would say that it might be. I was just saying, as proof, just to say, look, this is not a relationship I'm interested in. Because, like, if he sees that OP's found the scorecard, then he'll know that there's no way that he's going to get her back at that point in time.
Or he might see it as like the ultimate challenge.
Oh, yeah.
So it might just be better to just ghost him.
Yeah, don't make me gag. What do the comments have to say?
So Captain Fluffy Paw says, dump him. I would be offended if my husband did that. Also, he's taking advantage of her. Kat Nakoma says, that is just terrifying. Opie should get away and fast. Scary situation. Susum says, wow, Opie, it is good that you found it. Now you know to break up. Run, make sure you're safe because boyfriend sounds dangerous. Mary says, Opie, look at this as a gift. Take it and leave. Marsha says, very sad story. He's a narcissist. June says, wow, what a horrible situation. Definitely good advice, Amber. I hope she finds support. Marsha says, Opie needs to move in with family or friends after she quietly leaves. Safety is a priority.
Safety is a priority. And speaking of safety, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Giving My Husband an Ultimatum to Move Out of His Mom's House? I don't know if safety is involved in this one. Hi everyone, I'm a 32-year-old female and I feel like I'm losing my mind here and I really need some advice. My husband is a 34-year-old male and we've been living with his mom for about a year now. The original plan was for us to stay for a few months while we save for our own place, but somehow it's dragged on way longer than expected. And honestly, I just can't take it anymore. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has made me feel like a guest in her home and not family, a guest. She criticizes everything that I do. The way that I cook, wrong. The way that I clean, wrong. Even how I dress or how I talk sometimes. She's always got something to say. One time she actually told me that I don't know how my son puts up with you sometimes, and then laughed like it was a joke. It's not just the comments though. She treats me like I'm her personal maid. She'll ask me to do her laundry, clean up after her, and then run errands. And if I don't, she makes these passive aggressive comments about how I'm too busy to help family. Meanwhile, my husband gets to relax because according to her, he works so hard. Mind you, I also work full time and contribute equally to our bills. But none of that seems to matter to her. The worst part is that my husband doesn't see the problem. Every time I try to talk to him about this and how she treats me, he defends her and says she's just old-fashioned, or that I'm taking things too personally. He just keeps reminding me that this is her house and we should be grateful. I get it, I really do, but how far does that gratitude have to go? Well, this week I finally hit my breaking point. I told him that we need to move out like ASAP or I'm leaving on my own. I just can't keep living like this. It feels like I'm slowly losing my mind in this house and I need to put my mental health first. I wasn't trying to make it a me or her situation, but honestly, that's kind of where we are now. He was furious and says that I'm being selfish and dramatic, that his mom has done so much for us, and that I don't appreciate her. He even said that if I leave, it's going to destroy our marriage because he sees it as me abandoning him. I don't want to leave, but I feel like I've done everything that I can to make this work, and he's not even willing to meet me halfway. I just feel so stuck. Am I the jerk for giving him the ultimatum? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. And honestly, you may be better off without this man. It doesn't sound like he cares about OP one bit. Like, I don't know how he can see his mom, tormenting his partner and just be like, oh, but she lets me put my feet up, so everything's fine.
Well, I think that's exactly what's happening here, right? He gets easy. It's easy for him. Life is good for him. And so he's willing to look the other way. And I think that's really what it boils down to. And I think that OP should examine that.
Yeah.
Because if it's this way now, think about all the other situations that the same logic could apply. Like, what happens if she's pregnant? What happens, if any number of things here, or if she has like medical concerns or anything, right?
Right. And I think the most important thing is that's not what you do if you're a loving partner. Like, you don't look at your partner, listen to them, constantly be berated, see that they're like exhausted and burnt out, and just be like, well, this is good for me.
Yeah.
Like, he is very self-interested. He's only concerned about what's best for him. This situation benefits him perfectly. He's got mommy to dote on him. He's got OP to do all the housework. And that's really all OP is just a prop in his little scheme, his maid and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. And the one last kind of thing I wanted to talk about here is I think that ultimatums in general aren't very good. And I think that if you reach the point where you feel like you have to give your partner an ultimatum, that should really give you pause and make you reflect on why you feel like you have to give this ultimatum. Because I think that OP's instincts are here that she really just wants to pull them both out of the situation, and she doesn't feel like but she wants to take her partner with her, and the only way that she feels that she can do that is by saying, if if we don't leave together, then it's over type of thing, right?
Well, she's not even saying it's over. She's just saying she's going to leave on her own. And I
Yeah.
think that's perfectly reasonable.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's fine then. I mean, it isn't that as much of an ultimatum as I thought. I just kind of lost track of
He
what.
was the one who said that our relationship is over
Oh,
if you
yeah,
leave because
yeah.
you're abandoning me.
That's fair. That's fair. I can't think I just got my wires crossed there. But what do the comments have to say?
June says, I would hate living with my mother-in-law. She should have moved a long time ago. That sounds like a horrible situation. Mary says, yikes, this is how mother-in-law treats a guest? OP has the right idea. Turn this into, or at least, a long-distance relationship. Not the jerk. I don't see a downside to abandoning him. Marsha says, oh, he's a mama's boy and respects his mom more than his wife. Go file for divorce. Get him to sign. But first, separate the finances, get an apartment, and don't give him the address. A P.O. box.
That would probably be a really good idea. Speaking of just leaving them all behind, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my sister that my wife isn't spoiled? Her husband just doesn't like her. So we'll read this one, we'll go into tea time, and then we'll read our last final story. How's that sound, folks? Throw away fake names. I'm a 34-year-old male, and I'm married to the love of my wife, Michelle, a 31-year-old female, and have been with her for 13 years, married for 11. My wife is chronically ill, and as soon as it was financially feasible, I suggested that she quit her job to stay at home. Since then, I've become quite successful in my career, and I've encouraged her to get out of the house to pursue the hobbies that we didn't have the money for, and that she didn't have the time or energy for. We are incredibly happy with the direction of our life, where the direction of our life is going, and Michelle's mental and physical health has never been better. We split the household chores in accordance to how Michelle is feeling. On her good days, she'll usually do just about everything that she needs to do before I'm even home. But on those occasions where her illness is acting up a lot, and it falls on me at that point in time. I honestly don't mind. There isn't a whole lot for us to do on a day-to-day basis besides laundry, dishes, cooking, and tending to the dogs. We have a housekeeper who comes once a week and does most of the major stuff. I enjoy cooking and typically only have maybe an hour's worth of stuff on the days that she can't do anything. I also just generally like to spoil her. I bring her gifts and trinkets. I encourage her and financially support her hobbies. I take her on 2 weekly dates, vacations, and I like seeing her happy. My sister Karen cannot wrap her head around this concept. Her husband Bill works in the same industry as me and makes similar money. However, Bill does not treat Karen as I treat Michelle. But Bill won't let Karen be a stay-at-home mom. She frequently mentions how rare that it is that he takes her on dates or brings her home flowers or gifts, how he isn't generous with his money, and how it should be their money. Despite this, she has always criticized my wife for being spoiled. Anytime I mention my wife and what just happened to, anytime that I mention my wife and what she happens to be up to on that day, for example, in a cooking class, golfing, painting, my sister gets huffy and makes comments about how lucky my wife must be and consider herself, and how surprised it is that my wife stays busy. If I mention ever having to do a single bit of housework, Karen talks about how selfish Michelle is for not doing her part and how cooking breakfast was the least my wife could do. If I tell my mother about the emerald earrings that I bought for Michelle, the spa day that I sent her on, or the new recipe that I was making for her tomorrow, Karen would make a comment about how our relationship isn't equal and that I'm being taken advantage of. Recently, at a family dinner that neither Bill nor my wife were attending, I casually mentioned to my mom how after dinner I needed to run a load of laundry so that I would have clean pants for work for the next day. My wife was having a bad flare-up and had been pretty much confined to the couch. My sister scoffed loudly and said that if she wasn't so spoiled, then she wouldn't have to be coming home, that I wouldn't have to be coming home to a bunch of chores. I responded with, my wife isn't spoiled, your husband just doesn't like you, and asked why she's forced to work if her husband makes as much as me. She was mad, and my parents were irritated, and I was asked to leave the dinner. My sister has sent me texts calling me names, and my mother has reached out saying that it was insensitive and asking me to apologize. Am I the jerk? Sorry for stumbling through that one, folks. What do you think?
Not the jerk. It sounds like OP is a great husband.
Yeah.
And people that don't understand that, when you're dealing with chronic illnesses, they can fluctuate. People, like, it sometimes seems like if you're not like always bedbound, then people assume that like on your bad days you're faking it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, for a lot of conditions, whether they're physical or psychological, people have good days and they have bad days and they have in between days. And
Mm-hmm.
your mobility, your energy and all that stuff can fluctuate from one day to the next by a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
So I really love OP's example here. I think he's being a great partner. I love that he understands her illness, and his sister is right to be upset, but she's taking it on the wrong person.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think that's really what it boils down to. She should be upset, but she shouldn't be upset at OP, and she shouldn't be upset at her sister-in-law. She should be upset with her husband, who is not being a very nice person to her, being a nice partner to her. And I can understand her being upset and frustrated, but again, this isn't OP's problem. This is her problem.
right. And instead of, recognizing, like, she sees the misery in her own relationship, but instead of like dealing with it with her husband, she tries to change OP to be less supportive of his wife, which isn't cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But what do the comments have to say?
Mary says, LOL, laughing at the title already. I love the dynamics of this relationship. So glad that the problems are coming from outside the marriage. Yeah, Karen, be jealous, not the jerk. Susam says, I want a husband like OP. Where can I find that? I mean, I've got a husband like OP. I found him at the commuter lounge at the University of Maine. Marcia says, what a good husband. Sister has a problem with her husband, and he should set his sister in her place and how much he loves his wife. Sorry, your husband isn't like me. June says, this man truly loves his wife. I suppose he gets to spend more years with her. His sister is jealous. Maybe he should stop telling his sister their business. Mary says, heck, I'm jealous myself. OP, don't you dare apologize. Susam says, Karen is just jealous. It's not OP's fault that Karen's husband doesn't treat her well. Maybe Karen needs couples therapy or at least therapy herself. And Masha says, I suffer too with a chronic illness, and my ex-husband has been taking care of me when I have bad days.
Oh, well, sorry you suffer from a chronic illness, but I'm glad that he takes care of you. Speaking of tea time,
Speaking of tea time.
segue into tea time. Our tea time is ready. Let me end the poll
Oh
from
yes,
before.
let's hear our poll results.
So our poll has been ended, and most people are staying in at 53%, a small gathering at 30%, other at 15%, and then a fancy party at 0%. So
None
no
of us
one,
are living the high life.
yeah, no one is going to a fancy party. I'm going to a fancy party.
Okay.
It's in my head.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, we better get out the glue guns. We're doing a fancy party.
What's the joke, Amber?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Justin.
Just in time.
Just in time for breakfast.
Just in time for breakfast.
I mean, I will be having toast after this, so it almost works, even though it's not breakfast time here.
So June's guessed Earl Grey. Anyone else have any guesses about what kind of tea that I've got going on here? I kind of made it pretty easy this time. I think my tag has been showing this whole time. So if you've been somewhat observant of the tag that I have dangling off of my tea, then you should be able to get it. So, yeah, Tuesday says, oh, it's a wine time for Susums. That's very good. I hope you enjoy your wine. Tuesday says, my mother-in-law got me a tea caddy and some tea, so I'm drinking chamomile tea and I guess licorice spice.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I have chamomile tea.
Yes.
Not with me right now. I have water right now, but I've been drinking a lot of chamomile lately. It's great for the winter.
And Mary, yeah, I like the knock knock joke too. It wasn't too bad. And you're guessing matcha. Oh no. Oh, and Susum's missed the tea tag. Sometimes I've been cutting them off lately to make it harder for people. So you can't rely on the tea tags all the time. But we were rushing pretty up to the last minute today. Your husband plays drums in a band. might go to and find a sitter. Oh, that would be pretty cool. Hopefully you can have a good New Year's party like that, and you're drinking water.
For my New Year's, Brian got me this. It's like a bookend. It's like an Alice in Wonderland diorama bookend, and so I might be working on that for part of the time. I've already started it, but it's one of those ones that's like gonna take a long time to make. So that might be part of our New Year's is building my little diorama.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's been stepping up, Marcia. That's really good. He's the father of children and appreciates both being there for one another and keeping things great for them. That's awesome. That is really awesome. I mean, it's always nice to see when people can work together even after a divorce and whatnot. So.
Oh, and I think we forgot to wish Martha a happy birthday.
Oh, we did forget to wish you a happy birthday. I mentioned, that it was awesome that you have a thing going on tomorrow, but happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
And happy birthday to everyone whose birthdays I've missed. I usually
We need a calendar, like
yeah,
a
yeah,
Google Calendar or something with everyone's birthdays.
yeah. And I have Earl Grey today, so I believe June guessed that correctly. Congratulations, June. You get some Brian bucks. All right, and on to our last story, which I think everyone will enjoy. It's a very wholesome story. So, yeah, I almost forgot to switch it over. You would have just been watching me on the tea time screen here. Our last letter is titled, My Daughter's Friend Called Me Dad. My daughter, Lily, a 16-year-old female, has a friend, Kiera, a 16-year-old turning 17 in 2 weeks. It's usually one of two situations. Either Kiera is at our house or Lily is at hers. They are very close. Kiera lives in her grandparents because, from what I understand, her dad abused her physically and not in other ways, too. It's very sad. One day, Kiera was at our house while I was making dinner. She walked up to me and said, Hey, Dad, what are you making? I looked at her and I said, Did you just call me Dad? Kiera started crying and seemed really sad. I think that it was a sweet moment, but I feel really bad about it now. Here's the update. I saw Kiera in the bathroom doing her makeup, and I woke up and I said, Hey, Kiera, can we talk? And she says, yes. I looked at her and I said, I'm sorry for the way I reacted. I was just super surprised. I love the fact that you called me Dad. You're kind of like a second daughter to me, and I'm not offended. And Lily isn't offended either. Kiera said, My dad used to beat me, so I never really had a good father. My grandfather is very emotionally distant. You're the closest thing that I have to a father. I gave her a hug and a kiss on the head. Then I took my girls out to get ice cream. So, what do you think about that?
That's so wholesome. I'm really glad that she has OP in her life to be a father figure.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and that's really, at the end of the day, it's good when you have somebody who you can, be found family for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that OP, he sees Kiera all the time, and it's nice that he can give her a stable, loving home environment of some form or another. It sounds like she's literally at their house all the time, so it's really good that those two are basically sisters at this point in time, and that she can have this support system.
Yeah.
But what do the comments have to say?
June says that's a sweet story to end the evening. Mary says, OMG, I want to cry. What a great double dad. Chisei says, I love found family stories. And Susam says, so heartbreaking and sweet.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, sometimes, it's awful that situations like this arise and have to even happen. But I'm glad that there are people who are good people out there, right? And then Marsha also says, beautiful story. I'm glad that he's there for her. Yeah. But I think that brings us to the end of the thing. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I thank you for joining us on this great December live stream. It was nice that we made it through another year here. I think this is our, third live stream in a row? Maybe fourth? I don't know. I don't know how long we've been doing live streams for.
Yeah, you mean like years or?
Yeah, years.
Okay. I was confused because there was no unit of time, and it's like, it's definitely been more than 3 months. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up one day, see when when our first live stream was.
Yeah, so I think this is probably like our third year of live streams. So Yeah, we've had a number of them over the time. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for everything. Oh no, Sakara, I'm sorry you missed the stream. Oh, that's terrible. I wish that you had been able to join us.
Well, there's always next time,
Yeah, there's always next time.
which we haven't listed our next live stream, but we will soon.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of the next live stream, I guess I still have December 27th listed, so I guess I should actually update this. And it looks like our next live stream is probably going to be on January 31st. So Friday, January 31st. Let me actually end up changing this text here. So January 31st.
And we hope that you all will have a wonderful New Year's celebration and a great new year.
Yeah, I hope so as well. So have a happy holidays, happy new year, all those kinds of things.
Yes, and hopefully 2025 has brings some good things to all of us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Kat Nakoma and Sue Sums. You say, P.S. Remember going back to watch older videos without Amber, and I didn't like them as much. Oh, well, I mean, that's understandable. Amber is a valuable asset here. And June says, I hope your evening is going to be excellent. I hope yours is too. And sorry, Sakara, again. Thanks for joining us at the very end here. Mary says, Happy New Year to all of you. January 31st on the calendar. And thanks for joining us, Mary. Thanks for joining us, Marcia. Yeah, let's see, who else? June, thanks for joining us. Is there anyone who I've missed here? I said, oh, Tuesday. Thanks for joining us, Tuesday. Thanks for joining us, Sue Sums. Thanks for joining us, Sakara. Thanks for joining us, Mary. Thanks for joining us, Marcia. Thanks for joining us, Katakoma. Thanks for joining us, June. And anyone else who I've forgotten. There was someone at the very beginning there who's been kind of quiet. Heather, thanks for joining us, Heather. Anyone else who I've missed here? I don't think so. I don't think so. So thanks so much for joining us all.
Yes.
Oh, you just mean that we're best together.
We
Well,
do make a great team.
well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I wasn't offended otherwise. You know, I mean, I think Amber, well, and some of the complication before was that Amber, our room was set up in a little bit of a different way, and Amber was on the other side of the room, and so she sometimes would shout,
Yeah.
and then it,
It wouldn't work very well. I tried
Yeah.
shouting from my desk on the other side of the room.
I was like, you can join me if you want.
Because I can't just be quiet. I always have things to say.
Yeah. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you all later.
Bye.
Happy New Year's, Marcia. Happy New Year's, Susums. And we're happy to be here for you, Marcia. And we hope that you have a good one and have a happy birthday for tomorrow.